Joann, on behalf of the DePere Historical Society, we are very honored and pleased that you decided to speak with us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me to do this.
You're welcome. And we'll start with your name.
Okay, my name is Joann Storch Petersen, Storch being my maiden name. And I'm 75 years old. And today is June 1st of 2026. And she wants me to read this. Okay, I'm the great-great-granddaughter of Franz Gottlieb Lindemann. Franz Gottlieb went by Gottlieb, and he was one of the founders of St. Paul's Lutheran Church. There was about 20 of them, I think. So he was very involved in the church. Our whole family has been very involved in the church. And I went to school in the school. My mom went to school there with Otto Mertz. Otto Mertz taught German when I was going there. And my mom was married there. My dad was married. I mean, obviously, my mom was married there. My aunts and uncles were all married there. My husband and I were married there. And my grandma was married there. My great-grandma. It goes back. Lots of weddings, lots of burials in that church. And many people in the cemetery, all my relatives.
Do you remember anything about the orphanage that was there?
Oh, the orphanage was a big part of my childhood because we didn't have a lot of ground. We had a playground in front of the school. So I went to the school when it was pretty new because I didn't start school till 1956. And the school was that brand new little flat one-story school. And they just tore it down just last year. So the orphans home area, we ran sprints on the driveway going up to the DePere Park building now, which used to be the orphans home. We ran sprints, got ready for the competitions that we did. We did broad jump and hop, skip, and jump and all of that in the pits that they had behind the orphans home. And our softball field was behind the orphans home, and probably, I'm guessing there still is a ball field back there. And the most fun thing is we went ice skating on the pond. We had a lot of church events at the pond, a lot of youth group things, because I was a member of the Walther League and young, even when I was a little girl, we went ice skating there a lot. So the orphans home grounds were very, very much a part of St. Paul's. And a lot of the children came to school there off and on. It seems like they didn't stay because I know they had their own school. And I remember being in that building of the school and in the orphans home building. And they got confirmed with us, some of them. So it was a pretty integral part of my school experience.
Tell us about the house that you grew up in. Where exactly was it?
Okay, it was this picture right here, and it was, that's not the house I grew up in. This is my grandma's. It was at 12724 Manchester Road, which is where Rosalita's Mexican restaurant is now. That property used to be up. It wasn't down in that hole like it is now. It was flatter. It had a real natural decline. I rode my bike down Hathwell Lane. That's what our road was called, Hathwell Lane. We had our home, and my two aunts and uncles had home down there with their families. And then one more lot at the back that my aunt never built on. She moved to the Meisch property. They had a house already, so they moved into the Meisch property, which was only like a half mile down the road. And so my grandma lived up on Manchester. Our road went parallel down the road. And we lived behind her, then an aunt and uncle, and two daughters lived behind them, and an aunt and uncle, and three children lived behind them. So we just had one big 2-acre, I'm still trying to figure out if it was 2 or 3 acres, but 2 acre for sure, property to play on. And growing up with my grandma next door and my aunts and uncles and cousins next door was a wonderful upbringing in De Pere, which was very small town then.
And did it feel like a small town when you were
Oh
growing
yeah,
up there?
absolutely. And the field behind our house, which the rear part of our property, the backyard, would have been facing east. And Highway 270 eventually was built there. But before they built Highway 270, there was lots of big old trees that had been down for, I don't know, my whole childhood. The trees were all laying back there. And we would go back and play out in the field, and creeks running through there, and we built a fort back there. And I'm thinking, now I wonder if I would let my grandkids even play back there. There were snakes and things, but we had a great time back in that field.
And you could see the drive-in movie theater.
So the drive-in sat, up the road just a little bit enough, and it turned just enough that we could see the screen, not directly toward us, but angled enough we could see the picture, and we could certainly hear the sound on a quiet night. Especially, we'd sit on the picnic table and watch a lot of the movies. And occasionally, like most locals, our parents let us sneak in the back and sit with the kids in the kiddie area when it was a Disney movie or something like that. But that was fun.
Sure.
We had great summers in De Pere.
Do you remember when they built West County?
Oh, definitely. I actually worked at West County for a little while. And I remember they built that, it had to have been in the 70s or late 60s. I took my daughter there to go to a Girl Scout camp, and it was like 1980, and that was built there. That's when I was working there. So I don't know when it was built, but probably the end of the 60s or early 70s.
So as a child, did you walk a lot or ride your bike places?
We walked to school a lot, and or walked home from school a lot, and rode the bike and on good weather days. I think probably we were prone to walk home more than we walked there because early morning, things like that. But can you imagine anybody walking along Manchester Road between Rosalita's and St. Paul's Church now? Oh, but it was just a basic little road that was very safe. Actually, I walked that road a lot because I'd go next door to my grandma's house, who was a widow. My grandpa had died just a few years before I was born. That would have been Gottlieb Lindemann, the second Gottlieb Lindemann. And I'd go in there, and she knew I liked sweets. I have a sweet tooth. And I'd say, Grandma, you need anything from the store? Because she couldn't drive. And I know, as I grew up and got older, I realized she didn't need something from the store all the time. But she always came up with something she needed from the store that I could go get and bring back, and she'd give me money to buy a popsicle or a fudgesicle or whatever I wanted from there. I don't know if that happened with the other cousins or not. I don't remember that it did. Maybe it did, but I remember with me, it happened pretty often. And she'd send me to get a loaf of bread or something, like the silly stuff. And that was Rip Haney's.
Okay.
Everybody, I've heard people in these other interviews talk about Haney Market, and that was Rip. And I knew him and his wife, and he had a daughter, and he was very nice. And up the road on our side of the road, past the movie theater, there was a couple of bars. And I remember walking past those, and up past Rip Haney's on the other side of the road was another bar that my uncle frequented once in a while. He was a single guy for a while, lived with my grandma next door, and he'd go up there after work. He worked at McDonnell Douglas, so he'd go up there after work. And
do you remember the Village Bar at all?
I remember the Village Bar. I never set foot in it, and now I'm beginning to realize that I think maybe my Shinsing side of the family had some kind of involvement with the village bar. And when I looked on a census recently, I saw that my grandfather was or my great-grandfather was a drum maker. He worked in a drum shop.
Oh.
And I looked that up and found out that was a bar. So I'm thinking he worked in the village bar. Well, Al Mertz, in one of your interviews, had said something about George Shinsing in the village bar. And I went, wait a minute, that's my family. I have to find out who that was. I'm not sure. But yes, the village bar. And now I've heard there's a lot of memorabilia in there. I need to get in there and take a closer look at. I can't believe I grew up there and it was there the whole time. But, you know, I moved out of De Pere when I was a young woman and left St. Louis and then came back. And then I've lived out more west in Wildwood since then. So my daughter said, yeah, we go there. She and her husband go there. So I have to get in there.
But De Pere was your growing up years.
My growing up years.
Yeah.
It was all about De Pere. I didn't go much of anywhere except right up the street, because the church and my school and my friends were all around there. And Denny, my cousin, he was in class with me. We were the same age. And he lived right next door. And my other cousins, twin cousins, they lived right there, Mary and Sherry. And so I really didn't have much reason to go very far unless my mom and dad went to visit their friends and we went along with them. I kind of stuck around there.
Do you remember a truck farm at all? They used to do some farming before 270, Highway 270.
No, I've read some stuff where there was a farm right off of Manchester around there. I have no recollection of that. This house was across from Grandma and Grandpa's house and our property. That house, and there were houses all along there across from Rosalita's, where it is now. There were houses all along, all the way up there. And then Rip's store, but I don't know where the rest of that, maybe it was west a little bit. I'm not sure. I can't speak to that. I mean, I was just a kid.
Do you remember the florists that were on Manchester Road, Deutschman?
Oh, many. Oh, yeah. My mom and dad were very good friends with the Deutschman family. She called her Dutch, and very good friends with the Deutschman family. And then the Honor family were very good friends with my mom and dad too. And I knew all of those people really well. Harold Honor always brought my mom flowers out all the way till they had to move into a care center. Harold would bring spring flowers, and he would plant them in her yard for her from the nursery in De Pere. So, yeah.
Yeah, very fond memories.
I have a lot of great memories and a lot of really nice people. And so many cousins and relatives. So like people like the Ash family and the Borcherding family that went to church there, they're my relatives, because all these people that started at the farm off of De Pere Road, some people think of it more as off of Barrett Station. I think of it off of De Pere Road. They had 14 kids, 13 and 14 kids. The Clomors family had 14 kids. The Lindemann family had 13 or 14, depending upon when the kids would die, that kind of thing, but basically 14. And the Shinsing family didn't have quite that many, but they had quite a lot of kids. And it was all trickle down. So I am a Lindemann, a Clomors, and I'm trying to think of the name before the Clomors. And on the other side, I'm a Shinsing, a Mueller, and a Mertz. And if you go through the church records or even De Pere records, those names keep repeating. And then my uncles were involved in things around town. The Meisch family were pretty active in De Pere. That was my aunt and uncle, my mom's sister and her husband. And, you know, that just goes on.
So Lindemann, the street Lindemann was named after your family.
Was named after my great-great-grandfather. Right, he donated the property for that school, De Pere School at Lindemann in Manchester. And I went to school there as a kindergartner because St. Paul's didn't have a kindergarten when I went there. So I went 1 year there to that school, and then I started St. Paul's. But he donated that land for that. And I have information that same great-great-grandfather volunteered his time and effort. It was in the newspaper, apparently. And I have the clipping of that in all of my information, that he volunteered his time with no pay. It even made a point of saying no pay. He worked at the Lutheran Children's Home and helped them do things around there a lot, and I don't know exactly what. But he was apparently very helpful with the children's home. So they were pretty active. And then my dad and the uncles, you know, they were in the men's club, and a lot of people that will watch this would probably remember the St. Paul's potato pancake, roast beef and potato pancake dinner. Do you remember that, Joyce?
I do.
Yeah, and I used to be a server on Sundays, you know, walk around and give everybody refills on what they needed. That was a big part of our life. And my sister said, be sure to talk about the roast beef and potato pancake. She's 12 years younger than me, my sister Sandy, and she was very involved in that too. And I don't know if you remember, at that potato pancake dinner, they had they turned one of the schoolrooms into a bazaar, and they sold a lot of things for kids. The kids like. My sister said, tell them I really like going in that room with all the stuff you could buy. My grandma always bought me something. I was very close to my grandma. So that was Sophia Shinsing Lindemann. And I'm beginning to know that my grandma lived her entire life in De Pere, as did my grandfather. And so a lot of history there. But he had died. And everybody tells me he was a wonderful, wonderful man. So I wish I could have known him. But my grandma was awesome. And a lot of people from church know Sophie Lindemann. The older people still know who she is, because she was involved in the quilt. Oh, the church would bring the quilting club to her house once in a while. She had a big dining room, and they'd put up the quilt, and I don't exactly know where the table went or how that all worked. I just remember going underneath there and playing underneath the quilt with all the ladies' legs were around, you know, this rectangular quilt. And I remember being under there while they were quilting. So, I mean, I was in and out of my grandma's house a lot. And my aunt's house on the other side of me. She lived down one house from us. And we could run in there and out of there all the time. So, they were pretty active in church stuff and anything.
Sounds like their spirit is living through you.
Well, it is all my cousins. All of my cousins. I have 2 girl cousins that are 4 years older than me. They also went to St. Paul's. They're twins, Mary and Sherry Schrader. And, you know, they have all these memories. So we have a reunion we used to have a reunion once a year, all the cousins. And we'd go down to my lake place that my husband and I have. And we'd talk and get out, we'd take our pictures, and we'd get out all of our pictures of the family and what we did in De Pere and our backyards. We had all our birthday parties and everything in the backyard in De Pere. So, but they've all gotten older. I've lost a couple. But those of us that are still here, we try to get to the lake and get a lake time together, and we meet for lunch. We try to once a month, and we're pretty good at doing that about once a month. I meet with my cousins and my sister. Well, I see my sister all the time, but you know. So there's, my whole life, even though I haven't lived in De Pere for many years, it's still really kind of all about that.
Well, your formative years were there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You are, yeah.
Definitely. And the cemetery is full of grandparents and great-great-grandparents. and great aunts and great great aunts and my first level aunts and uncles, and they're all there. My mom and dad.
Well, thank you for sharing all your wonderful memories you had from growing up in De Pere. Is there anything else you wanted to add at the end?
Well, let me look at my notes.
Okay.
Oh, I did pretty good, actually. I talked pretty fast, but I think I got it all. I mean, I got enough. It's more than anybody probably wants to listen to.
Do you remember the restaurant Luigi's?
Oh yeah, Luigi's was just west of our house.
Yeah, okay.
We went there a couple times for special events. You know, it had to be a special event and like where the whole family would go. My cousin Sherry, she texted me a couple of months ago and said, "Did we used to swim in a pool behind Luigi's?" And I said, "I have no memory of that. I don't think they had a swimming pool behind there. But if anybody that's listening knows better, we want to know." But I don't think so. We swam at Tree Court, which was down Barrett Station Road.
Sure.
No, not Tree Court, Country Surf.
Yeah.
It was Country Surf down there. Which is that still in De Pere? That property is considered De Pere, right? Yeah.
Right now it's sand volleyball.
Oh, where Country Surf is sand volleyball? Oh, well, that's great. My granddaughter would love to know
The
that.
pier actually ends there.
Does it?
It swings up to Greenbrier Hills Country Club, comes back over the hill, and stops where the Transportation Museum begins.
Oh, okay.
That's where it stops.
See, for me, I didn't think it was even that far. So for me, De Pere is that little bitty space there on Manchester.
There was a lot of incorporation in the last 30 years.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Well, we thank you for your time, and we may have to visit again to get a little bit more of family.
Of my
history.
other side of the family, I would like to research that at some point. I will start more research on that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joyce.